Primarily people are looking at trash cans and stuff like that, trash bags. Oh yeah, that's crazy. We're kind of seeing it. And everybody's just like, oh, that guy's a drug addict. There's a bunch of people who have a picnic. Over here in the woods, it's been a while. And it's just people around. Like I go on my tour a lot of reservoirs. Like it's just like, oh, that comes. Like I had a bad experience I just like to see it. As far as there's and it's like they're just picking on it. My name is Carter. Okay, it's gonna be a game. You're busy. Yes. Вы не поняли, что у меня неплохо, да.
Hello. Can you guys hear me in the back? Leif, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Alright, Kirsten can hear me. Leif, Brandon, can you hear me? You can hear me, we're good? Are we good on volume back there? Yeah, I'm going to turn it up a bit.
I like listening.
Hello, welcome. Hey, welcome everybody. I hope everybody's here for Denver, Liberty on the Rocks. I hope you're all in the right place. Because we're talking about communism tonight, so it's gonna be fun. That's how we bait and switch. I know Mike's the one guy who's like, no, I'm about it. I'm about the communism. So, anyways, thank you all for coming out. We are Denver Liberty on the Rocks. We are a libertarian social meetup. We meet on the first and third Wednesday of every single month. We talk about a wide range of topics. We are all over the place, really. Anyone I find interesting, I try to bring them in and we chat about it. So, if tonight is your first night, thank you all for coming. Everything at the back table on my right and the middle table are free, not the left table. That's Alan's table. Alan will literally murder you if you steal any of his stuff. He doesn't look fierce, but he's intense, so don't mess with Alan. But the other two tables are free. So and then again, I want to thank you all for coming out. I know we have a lot of new people here tonight who I haven't met, so thank you all for coming out. If you guys would like to support us, libertyontherocks.org/donate. We really appreciate it. If tonight is your first night, please feel no obligation. We're just happy that you're here, and please just shill us to your friends. That's all we ask. So this is our last event for the year. We will be back next year. We're not exactly sure when we'll be back, sometime in January. And I don't have any speakers booked yet, so I'm working on that. But hopefully we'll get Michael Brechtenwald. We got a few others that I'm talking to. So next year should be a lot of fun. Also, I want to say thank you everyone for making Liberty on the Rocks. This is probably the best year we've ever had. We've had a ton of big speakers this year, a ton of engagement, a ton of new people. So thank you everybody for coming, making this a great meetup, and making it a ton of fun for me to run all the time. So I love you all. Thank you for coming. Now, as always, we're going to do a 30-second soapbox. So anyone who's here, if you have a cause that you're working on, if you got a business, if you're selling something, if you're running for political office, if you are selling Bitcoin, if you're selling Dogecoin, whatever it is, hop up on the mic. Now's your chance. Share it with the entire room. And I will stand here making awkward jokes until people come up. I need at least 5 people, otherwise you just have to listen. There you go. Jim.
Hi everybody, my name is Jim Wiley, James for Peace. I'm running for Congress against Lauren Boebert. You guys will remember that back in July, the Libertarian Party of Colorado was banned on Twitter. Well, we wrote a cease and desist, and the Libertarian Party of Colorado is no longer banned on Twitter. So we got it back. Yeah. But Friday, I got banned on Twitter. Yeah. So I'm writing a cease and desist, and I'm gonna get my account back. But until that point, I'm gonna need all of you guys. I'm gonna need your help. Because we got a protest coming up this weekend. I need you guys to be my voice because I've been muted. I've been censored. My free speech has been taken from me. They're interfering with the elections. And I need you guys to assist me in making sure that the message of peace is not censored. Because we know the message of war has got far too much power. So I apologize for the over-enthusiastic presentation. JamesForPeace.com, please donate.
Thanks, Jim. Jim was way too based on Twitter, so they shut him down. They didn't delete your account, though. Your account's still there. You can go look at his account. He just can't post from it anymore. Alan? It's a weird setup. We got a lot of weird chairs.
Yeah. Hi there, I'm Alan, and I am here. And now that Sam is here, there are two of us selling some stuff. And so I have a whole variety of really creative and unique holiday items for maybe a liberty enthusiast, maybe a cannabis enthusiast. And you come check it out. There's a special price for Liberty on the Rocks people. I was just at the Tanner Gun Show selling some of these bullet bottles. You can see one on the table nearby. There it is. And I didn't do the 420 festival, but these are better prices than the 420 festival.
What's that t-shirt you're wearing?
Yeah, this is a t-shirt. The interesting thing about these all-over print t-shirts, no two print alike, so each one is unique. And this is a white print on black, okay, if you can believe that. If you can't feel it, come back and visit me. Glad you are all here to hear Charlie Robinson tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alan. I'm a very scary individual, as you can tell. Alan told me about tonight's speaker, so a big shout out to Alan for being a weirdo who listens to conspiracy podcasts. So, up next.
Hi, everybody. This is my second time here, and my name's Miguel, and I'm a friend of Christopher's. He invited me down, and he posted a flyer on your website.
Telegram.
On Telegram. And so Sunday, December 10th in Golden, there's a guy by the name of Sean Tario that's coming to speak on digital freedom and censorship. So kind of along the same lines of what we're talking about. You might want to write this down. It's mark37.com. And so it's December 10th, 12 to 6 up in Golden. And I don't know, the flyer's on your website. So
Telegram group.
on Telegram, yeah. So you and your data deserve better. Learn how big tech uses your phones and computers to spy on you and monetize you without your knowledge. Learn how to remove big tech from your personal and business devices, applications, and systems. So there's a $20 donation. I'm just the messenger trying to get the word out. So hope to see you there. Hopefully we'll have enough room. So
Right on.
Thank you, Miguel. So that reminds me, I'm going to show real quick. We have our Telegram group. It's Liberty on the Rocks Denver. You can post whatever kind of events you guys are doing. Just post it in there. We have 326 people, I think, in the Telegram group. So yeah, post whatever things you guys are doing there, and then you know, sometimes we have super autistic arguments about like the nap and stuff like that. So.
Every now and again.
Yeah, it can get a little heated sometimes. Also, if you're interested in privacy and getting off of big tech, I have a project I'm working on, libertytools.io, for every single tool that you can use to build Liberty. So libertytools.io/privacy, if you're into that sort of thing. Check it out. It's all free. Dave?
Okay, you need Bitcoiners here. Raise your hands. Who's with the Bitcoin? Have you guys been seeing what's happening with the price?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So this may be one of your last, I don't know, the future last chance to get in before it goes sky high. So I've been building projects on Bitcoin for over 10 years. I built a Bitcoin exchange in 2013 before, things took off. I've been running a business the last 6 years, thebitcoinconsultancy.com, helping people that have issues with their crypto Bitcoin wallets, brute forcing wallets and graphics cards. But for you guys, I'm happy to give advice, no charge. If you have questions, how do I get started? Where do I buy Bitcoin? I will help you out. If you have more serious projects, if you want your business to take Bitcoin point of sale payments, if you have problems with your wallet, happy to help out. But if you just need advice, just come to me. I'm happy to give you advice anytime, help you get started, tell you where to buy it, how to store it safely. I have tons of articles and podcasts and videos, so happy to help anybody get started.
Nice. How do we reach you?
Yeah, thebitcoinconsultancy.com.
What? Use the mic.
TheBitcoinConsultancy.com.
Yeah.
Are you on Twitter's Telegram chat?
I am on the Liberty and Rocks Telegram. Yeah,
Okay.
David Wexler. So you can just message me.
Okay. Thank you.
If you can't find him, message me and I'll point you in the right
Also,
direction.
I'll be here tonight, so just come by.
He is here right now, so you can talk to him in person. Brandon?
Ladies and gentlemen, community is so important. You know, so many of us believe in freedom, individual sovereignty, all these wonderful and amazing ideas. Maybe we read about it in a book, maybe we listen to a podcast, watch a YouTube video, and it open our minds to the real potentials of our own lives. But until we can get together, until we can build community, until we can share the same space with people who share the same ideas, that's where the magic happens. You know, that's really what it takes. So that's part of the reason why Liberty on the Rocks Denver is so important. Also part of the reason I started Northern Colorado, Liberty on the Rocks. So check it out on meetup.com, NoCo, Liberty on the Rocks. I'll post all the events in the Denver Liberty on the Rocks chat as well. So if you're in the Fort Collins, Greeley area, please join us. If you know anybody up there, you know, building community is more important than ever. Also, if you're interested in getting involved in local politics, I have a website called freestatecolorado.com. Also a Telegram channel as well. I'm going to be really heavily focused going into next year on what the state legislature is doing. So if you're interested in local government, there's so much, everybody's got an opinion on what's going on in the Middle East or Europe or everywhere else. In my mind, it's not as important as what's happening in our neighborhoods, in our own communities, what's happening down the street, what's happening where your kids go to school, what's happening where your business is located. I don't want another COVID lockdown. I don't want gun control. I don't want our taxes going up. So that's why I'm involved on the local level. And if you want to join me on this journey, find freestatecolorado.com, join the mailing list, and awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Brandon. Brandon, what about common sense gun control?
We have one more walk.
Brandon Ward, one of the best activists in the state. Sam?
Yes, sir.
30 seconds, Sam. A minute to 30 seconds.
A minute to 30 seconds. Rodney's not here. I should take his 30 seconds and his minute and a half. And then I should just start.
You're already at 15 seconds.
All right. Hello, everyone. I am Sam. I'm the Mushroom Man. I won't say much. We've been doing great things as always. I just came back from MJ BizCon. I'm not high, obviously, so I'm going to eat a lot of sugar tonight. I just wanted to say, hey, I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who supported Ocean Spores. Thank you to everyone who supported Liberty Leaf, T-Link Fling Golf. As always, we've been flinging into the future of golf and natural medicines. So if you want some natural medicines, of course, come back, talk to us. I don't know where Rodney is, he's somewhere, but we have a head shop, so you can come by there too. We have other stuff there too. It's kind of fun. I'm gonna give a special shout out to Ann Dan, because Ann has helped tremendously with Ocean Spores going to legitimate places like MJ BizCon to do business. One of the things that we were able to secure over the weekend is a, is that camera on?
Yes.
Oh God. One of the things we were able to do is start working with a company called Oakland Hyphae, which is one of the best companies for mushroom testing and getting natural medicines out in the world and doing psychedelic conferences and just talk about psychedelics and other natural medicines. So, just want to say thank you again. If you want to give us some money, you know where my pockets are. You know where Rodney's are, kind of, sort of. He has a lot of pockets and a lot of other stuff too. If you want that stuff to come out of his pockets, you just have to pull money out of your pockets first. Oh, okay. Oh, my bad. I was just looking pretty up here, so, you know. Thank you, pretty people. Love you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, Sam. Rodney probably got to a bong racing thing and he probably got high out of his mind and wandered onto the bus where he's arguing with the bus driver about masks and other things, because that's what Rodney does, and we love him for it. So, but yeah, if you guys want drugs, see Sam and normally Rodney. Anyone else? Natural medicines, my bad. Drugs are a dirty word. Anyone else? Any last people would like to shill anything? Kiara.
Just tell people I'm selling Bitcoin.
My wife is selling Bitcoin, so if you would like to buy Bitcoin KYC free, talk to Kiara.
I got too worked up earlier. I forgot to mention the flyer on the tables. Please join me for the protest. Thank you.
Join Jim for the protest. Anyone else? Any last people? All right, we are getting started. So you all know our speaker tonight, the man, the myth, the legend, Charlie Robinson. He's the host of the Macroaggressions podcast and the author of 3 books, one of which he will be speaking about tonight. So please give it up for Charlie.
Well, I can already tell I'm going to like this crowd. These are my type of people. Hey, welcome. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces. Thanks, Josh. Alan and I have, Alan's my coffee buddy. Right? We're going to have coffee sometimes. Yeah. It's good to see you. Look, I wish to God that I was not having to do podcasts about these things or write books about this situation. I have a dream to do podcasts about football, because that means that these problems that we're working on have all been solved and I can go back to things that are kind of mindless. But in the absence of that, it feels like a priority for us to really take a look at where we are and what's happening. I want to talk a little bit about this book. This is the second book I wrote. It's called The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire. I wrote this with Jeff Berwick from the Dollar Vigilante, the Crypto Vigilante, and the host and founder of Anarchapulco. Anyone been to Anarchapulco here? Woo. All right, cool. Are you coming? Trying? Okay, come back this year. I'll be the host and MC of it this year. 10th anniversary. I think it's going to be different. It's going to be more of a pivot to service, given the hurricane that hit Acapulco, and that's a story in and of itself. That was a weird one. Tropical depression, all of a sudden, Category 5 hurricane within a matter of hours, hit Acapulco with 0 media attention, and then the government pretended like it didn't happen. So, got a little Maui vibes to it, I'm just saying. But this book, I gotta tell you sort of how it came about, because you guys know who Jeff Berwick is? He's out of his fucking mind, of course, and but in the best way possible. I say that as a compliment. He knows that. So I wrote, my first book was called The Octopus of Global Control, and I was going out promoting it, and I wound up on Jeff's show, and we were talking about it. When we got done recording, he said, would you like to write a book with me? And I was like, yeah, I mean, what do you have in mind? And he said, well, I got some ideas, but he says, it's all coming down. And I was like, what do you mean it's all coming down? He's like, like the economy, it's like a house of cards. I was like, oh yeah, of course, yeah. So he sends me over a list of things that he thought he might want to tackle in the book, but boy, I couldn't get it out of my head when he said it's all coming down. In my mind, like a controlled demolition, like Building 7. So if you recognize the building, and that's Building 7 wrapped in an American flag. So he sent over a list of all the things he wanted to talk about, and I said, how about we do this? How about we make a comparison between the way you take down an actual building and the way you would take down the American Empire? And I laid it all out, and I said, what we can do is we could break it up into 8 sections. We could start with a rotting foundation and move into the pre-weakening of the building. We could get into identifying the support columns, then rigging the detonators, talk about who wired the building, talk about ringing the alarm bells, pushing down the plunger, and clearing the debris. And I wrote this whole long email about, we could do this, and we could do that, we could do this. And I write just 1 sentence back. He says, I like your idea better than mine. So that's what we started. And look, we had Ron Paul agreed to write the foreword to the book, and then 2 days later he had his medical incident, And we went, oh geez, we got to let him off the hook. You know, we felt bad. I didn't want the poor guy sitting in the hospital bed worrying about how he had to write the foreword to some stupid book he had, you know. So I said, we should probably let him go. So we did, and Doug Casey wrote it instead. Listen, no, you know, Doug Casey is a savage in his own right, I will say. But really, we started this process in 2018. Thought we were going to be done with it around Acapulco, February 2020. And we got there, and Jeff just didn't have all of his stuff done. He's super busy, and I was a little disappointed. But boy, was that a blessing in disguise, because 3 weeks later, COVID kicked off, and then I said, yeah, we're going to need to wait and see how this plays out. So we did. We watched it for a couple of months. We saw a level of authoritarianism that we thought was almost impossible, all of a sudden normalized, and after we got to around August of 2020, I said to Jeff, I think I've seen enough to finish this up. I think I know where this is going. What about you? He said, yeah, I do too. So we wrapped it up. We released it on the Friday before the 2020 elections. It became a #1 bestseller in the US and Australia on election day, and the irony that you will never vote in another election if you read this book, I swear to God, that it happened on election Tuesday. I thought, well, this is perfect. So this is kind of where we are. We are in a situation where I've got good news and I've got bad news. The bad news is I don't think we can stop what's coming in terms of the economic component to this. The good news is, and it's not great news, it's just good news. The good news is that if you're like us and you see where things are headed, you can move out of the way to the extent that you can. You can prepare yourself. You're going to be so much further ahead of everybody else. I'm not giving anything away. If you haven't read the book, I'm not giving anything away with the ending, but we made the comparison to how December 26th, 2004, Banda Aceh, Indonesia. You remember that earthquake and tsunami, that really bad one that hit? When the people woke up that morning, they went out to the beach and there was no water. It's just gone. You know, they didn't know what to make of it. They'd never seen anything like that. You could walk a half a mile out into the beach, find a starfish, take some selfies, and do all that. But the people that had experience, the people that knew what that meant, the animals instinctively knew, get to higher ground. You've got to go. Don't waste any of your time. There's no time to sound the alarm bells. You're going to have to grab whoever's right next to you and get going, explain it to them later. And that's really kind of where we are right now. We have an economic house of cards that is ready to come down. Now, Jeff and I backed up a lot of the stuff that we wrote in the book with facts, but there's room for some speculation. And part of what we speculated about was what would be the trigger for all of this. And I mean, given how crazy the world is these days, it's really hard to put your finger on one thing. You know, it could be just about anything. But we really identified Deutsche Bank as being a trigger for this. And one of the reasons why we did that, it's a zombie bank on its best days. You know, it's over leveraged and mismanaged and run by lunatics. I mean, but I repeat myself, every bank is like that. But Deutsche Bank is a special animal because it is so poorly managed. And yet here's the thing that nobody will talk about. And banking is boring and nobody wants to get into it because it's sort of hidden by the fact that it's just numbers and, you know, but it's really important to understand that these banks all have bets with each other. It's one thing to take your money and to speculate on, you know, and to use it in sort of the casino of Wall Street, but they've done something even more diabolical. They have invented something called derivatives. And derivatives are bets on bets. And you can have a bet on a bet on a bet. And you can have a bet with this bank, and that bank can have a bet with that bank. And here's the problem. If you think about it like, let's simplify it like you're betting football, okay? Let's say you're betting the Super Bowl against Josh. I'm betting against Josh. And my team wins, I win the bet. My team wins the bet. But you have no money to pay me. So did I really win the bet? because I can't collect on it. So if I can't collect on the bet that I have with you because you are insolvent, Deutsche Bank, then all the bets that I won are actually losses, and it affects my balance sheet, and now the bets that I have with that other bank over there, I can't pay them because Deutsche Bank didn't pay me, and the next thing you know, we have a contagion effect. Now the thing is that I think people mistakenly believe that banking collapses happen over the course of a year or maybe months, but the reality is that when a systemic banking collapse happens, it's a matter of days. It happens really fast. And if you're waiting for CNN or you're waiting for MSNBC or Fox News to tell you what to do in an event like that, it's too late. So here's the good news is that because we're all a little bit paranoid and we're all paying attention and we know that these people are lying to us constantly, we're going to have to move in advance of hearing it from the mainstream. If you're waiting for that, it's too late. So you're going to need to re-examine the relationship that you have with your bank if you haven't already. I'd like to remind people, when you open a bank account and put your money in your bank account, it's not your money anymore. It's the bank's money. You are an unsecured creditor. In fact, not only are you not in first position, you're not even in second position. You're behind the bondholders. So if something goes wrong, if something goes wrong with your local bank branch down the street, like the manager robs the vault and skips off to Tahiti with his girlfriend, the FDIC will be there to backstop you. They've got up to $250,000 per account. You're probably going to be fine. But if there's a systemic banking collapse, the FDIC only has about 2% of deposits on hand. So for every dollar you have in the bank, theoretically the best you could do is get 2 cents. That is if you were getting anything at all, because the FDIC, unfortunately, is deeply involved and invested in the bond market. And that is a bad place to be right now, because with what interest rates have done over the last couple of years, if you've been in the bond market at 1% or 2%, and now interest rates are 7%, you've got a bunch of bonds that are kind of upside down. So the backstop for your banks, the FDIC, is basically insolvent. I hate to break it to you. So again, you're going to need to make some moves in advance of this, and getting money out of the bank to the extent that you can is probably a good idea. But have you gone to the bank and tried to withdraw, I don't know, I wouldn't even call it a large amount of money, just sort of like a median, a couple $1,000s? Try it. You gotta have, they'll ask you questions. What do you need this money for? What do you need this money for? I mean, I've been almost asked to leave my bank for telling them what they could do with their questions. I finally just told them, cracking hookers. I mean, if you asked, I'll tell you. Cracking hookers, baby, that's what I'm buying it for. It is none of your effing business what I'm doing with this. That is my response to you. But see, they don't have the money on hand, and they hate cash, and they're very concerned about us. So I think that where we stand right now is we're in this, it's hard to call this a normal period, because it feels like anything but normalcy. But given where things are headed, this is going to be the calm before the storm. I think everybody feels that. What is the vibe that you guys have? Do you feel the way I feel? Like something is I feel very uneasy about everything. There's a lot of, I'm never really comfortable, but especially lately, it feels like the authoritarianism is not even hiding anymore, right? That they don't even bother. Remember when they used to have the decency to give us a good lie? They don't even do that anymore. Now the lies are so obvious and nonsensical that you feel like, I watch a press conference with that Karine Jean-Pierre, and it's like, wow, man, they brought in the JV team for this, right? I mean, this is somebody that is completely unqualified to handle this job, and we're supposed to just pretend like this is normal. That, I think, is even scarier than the back when we would get Ari Fleischer, who would come in there, who was a professional liar. You're like, wow, that guy's lying to me, but he's good at what he does, Now you're like, they don't even have the decency to give us a good lie. So we're in a very unsustainable time. We have wealth inequality that is going to fuel a huge, massive, resentment, I guess is one way to put it. But the way that we're headed now, I heard some people talking about Bitcoin. Thank God for Bitcoin. But let's expand on that as well, and not forget about our friends gold and silver, because they're going to be really crucial in a time like this with something with no counterparty risk. The idea that you own a stock right now. Ooh, do you own it though? Have you been watching about the great taking? Oh, that takes you down a rabbit hole where you start to feel like, God, is everything fake? I think I own this. I own my house. I own my house outright. Yeah, until you don't pay your property taxes, and then do you own your house? So I think that we're getting ourselves ready for a big change. You want to call it a fourth turning? I could go with that. Unsustainable debt, we know this. That's there's nothing new about that. But I think the acceleration process, it feels like they're stealing everything that isn't bolted down at this point. You know what I mean? Like a bunch of criminals just looting the place on their way out. And of course, when you see that, it makes you ask the question, what do they know that we don't know? Where if they know to head for the lifeboats, it makes me feel like maybe we're headed down a dark path. But you can always count on one strategy for the American empire, and that is to start another war as a distraction. It's always what they do when an economic collapse is around the corner. It's a great distraction for that. And Jeff and I talk about the death of the American empire, and I gotta be honest with you, some of it's gotta go. 1,000 military bases around the world, that's disgusting. That is unsustainable. Having the world's reserve currency, having the petrodollar situation, these things are changing. I remember back when I was a kid, the idea of, you remember when the Bush family was really running things, and they were so in bed with the Saudis that banned our Bush. They were like, oh, he's like practically one of us. It's like, I don't love that. But the idea of trying to go around the petrodollar arrangement would get you some democracy dropped on your ass from 25,000 feet in the form of bombs. Remember that? Those good old days? Libya, right? Iraq, trying to oil for food. Can't do that anymore. But things have changed. And now we've got the BRICS nations teaming up. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, plus 7 more that have signed on. And now they have gone to a gold-backed currency. So we're watching the death in slow motion of the petrodollar. And what does that mean for us? What does it mean for the American empire? It means that when you don't have the magic printing press anymore, then you can't finance the wars. So that's not the worst thing in the world, right? However, if we don't have the world's reserve currency, then a lot of those dollars that have been needed across in all the various countries to buy that oil, they're going to go away. They're going to come floating back to us in the form of hyperinflation. So again, if you're waiting for CNN to tell you hyperinflation's coming next quarter, you'll be waiting forever, because it's in their best interest to not alarm you and to not tell you what's actually happening. So this is a room, obviously, if you're in this building, you're a free thinker, you're somebody that isn't going to be watching the mainstream media, you're going to be reading other subversive websites or listening to horrible podcasts like, I don't know, maybe mine, Macroaggressions. You can, but you're going to be seeing a very different world, and the relationship now between the rest of the countries and the United States reminds me of, you remember the high school bully, the guy that was stuffing nerds in lockers and being a jerk to everybody? that's been America. That's been the American empire. I'm an American, and I want what's best for America. And the American empire most definitely does not represent me, and I think I'm safe to assume it doesn't represent you either. But we have been stuffing people in lockers for a long, long time. And there is some sweet justice in a scene where the bully comes around the corner and the entire class is waiting for him, and then he gets his. That's coming. That's coming for the American empire. It's going to happen in a variety of ways, but the easiest and most efficient way for them to do that is to debase our currency. That is always how you destroy a country. Destroy it, soften it up from the inside. Soften it up financially, soften it up morally, weaken it from the inside, get them believing that there's, 114 different genders, and that you can be whatever you want to be, and that everything is subjective, and that 3 times 4 equals 11 as long as you can show your work. That's Common Core. I put that in my first book. I swear to God, this is true. The curriculum director for Common Core, the education curriculum that Bill Gates developed, his head of curriculum said, we're not so much, talking about Common Core math, we're not so concerned with the outcome. It's really more the process, and can they explain how they got to the answer, and they can show their work, and we're, so if it is 3 times 4 equals 11, as long as they can spell it out and show their thought process, we're really more interested in that. Well, I'll tell you, I drove here in a car, I drove across a bridge, and I really hope that the bridges in the future are not built by engineers that are good at Common Core math, that were able to bullshit their teachers and tell them that 3 times 4 actually equals 11 because they were able to show their work. But that is a world that we're getting into. It's an interesting component. These oligarchs, after they've bought everything that has a price tag on it, they go looking for things that aren't for sale, like the education system. So when the Rockefellers and Carnegies designed the school system, the compulsory school system, and put everybody in straight lines to mimic the way the factories look, and had the bell go off when it's recess, and had the bell go off when it's lunchtime, then they march you into a cafeteria that looks exactly like a prison. And that is dog training. That is conditioning to get you to work in their factories in the future. Now Bill Gates, following in the path of the Rockefellers, has decided to do the same thing with Common Core. But what has happened is that it has destroyed the education system. I did an episode of Macroaggressions last week called "We Don't Need No Education." It was talking about the system in Baltimore, the school system in Baltimore. There was a kid who finished in the top half of his class. He graduated 4 years, top half of his class. You guys I know it's probably been a while since everyone's been in school, but we still remember the GPA system, right? 4.0 is an A, 3.0 is a B, 2.0 is a C, and D is a 1.0. Top half of his class, top half, 0.13 GPA. He passed 3 classes in 4 years and was in the top half of his class. Now, you would think that that would be an alarming statistic, and that they would get right on it, and that they would say, well, we've got to fix this. Well, they did. They fixed it. They decided that from now on, they're not going to call it failing. They're just going to call it not completed. So, problem solved. So this is the sort of level of thinking that we're dealing with government. We see this massive tsunami coming our way, right? And the people that are supposed to be in charge of the ideas that are going to put us in a better path are telling you that as long as you can convince your teacher that 3 times 4 actually equals 11, and as long as you rebrand what failing is, that's a success. Boy, I think we're in a real problem here. We're headed down a very dangerous path. Insanity is becoming normalized. The rest of us, how many people in this room, just by a show of hands, have lost a lot of friends, family members over the last 3 years because of COVID. Yeah, I mean, I don't mean lost them because they died from it, because it has a 99.98% survival rate and a median death age of 80. But I mean, I'm talking about lost them in terms of your ability to communicate with them anymore because they're watching MSNBC or they're wearing a mask in their car alone. So there has been a component of society that has been broken, just emotionally shattered. And I've been getting into, have you guys ever seen the Yuri Bezmenov interviews with G. Edward Griffin from the late 70s, early 80s? You know you're at the right video because it looks like they're going out to Studio 54 after the interview. Watch them. Watch Yuri's presentation. There's a bunch of them. I went on a Yuri Bezmenov bender a while ago, and he talks about the 4 stages of ideological subversion. He talks about the demoralization phase. He says you need 20 years for that. You need enough time to educate an entire generation into Marxist ideology. So if you've got the time, it's going to take 20 years. Then he says, then there's the destruction phase. That's about 5 years. That's when you go through and you start to make everything backwards. You start to attack the school systems and you start to attack rational thinking. Step 3 on this was very important. He says you need a crisis, and the crisis needs to last 6 weeks, right? Enter COVID. And then after that, this 4th and final stage is a process called normalization. And normalization, he said, lasted an indefinite amount of time. When he gave a description about, and this was back when the Soviet Union was still together, he talked about how there was a situation in Czechoslovakia, and the Russians, in order to deal with it, they rolled tanks in there and put tanks on every corner, and they said that the problem has been normalized. And you go, okay. So right now, we are in the normalization phase, where they're normalizing insanity. They're teaching you that sure, men, but of course men can get pregnant. I mean, of course men can get pregnant. Why can't they? We need a 3rd bathroom. If you don't have a 3rd bathroom, you're clearly a bigot or something. You're some pejorative. This is a recipe for disaster. This is what happens when you regime change, ideologically regime change an entire country. And I wish it wasn't the case. Yuri was talking about this in the 70s, and you start going 20 plus 5 plus 6 weeks plus, and you go, shit, we're here. I mean, it's happened. I think it might have happened twice. I'll be honest, I think 9/11 was one of them as well. 9/11 and the 6-week crisis and then the normalization period. Are you still taking off your shoes to go through TSA? Yes. Well, then it's been normalized, right? I mean, there's an entire generation that go to the airport and they think, of course, we always take our belts and shoes off. Of course you can't fly with liquids. You can't fly with liquids because they might be used to, blow up an airplane. Okay, make that one make sense. So it's possible. It's possible to break society's brains to a point where they throw their hands up and they just go, make it stop. Just make, I'll wear the mask, I'll eat the bugs, I'll live in a 15-minute city, just for the love of God, make it stop, I can't take it anymore. And that's where we are. And that's a bad place to be. And the people in this room, look, we just see the world differently. I mean, I think better, but whatever. We just see it from a different angle. We can see through the lies. It's like they live. Like we have the glasses, and the normie people don't. So you want to just shake them and go, you can't see that this is all nonsense. You can't see that nobody in the White House is in charge. You can't see this. You can't see that everybody in there is incompetent, more incompetent than the last person. But unfortunately, a lot of people can't. And it's wild to me. You would think, after what we've gone through, that it would be obvious to everybody, but unfortunately it's really not. And so, look, I think that in the end, what winds up happening with the American Empire is similar to what happened with the Russian Soviet Union. It's not so much that Russia went away, right? It's just that it lost all of its appendages. It lost the Balkans, and it lost, all the satellite countries that it had control over. It kind of like somebody that gets stuck on Mount Everest, right? And they're freezing to death. Your body prioritizes where the blood goes. Let's keep it in the organs. Let's keep it in the brain. You're going to lose some fingers and toes, but that's the price you pay for getting yourself caught in a bad situation. So what is the American Empire? What happens to the American Empire? Well, we lose a lot of stuff. We lose a lot of the privilege of having the petrodollar, of having the world's reserve currency, of having the golden goose, the money printing machine that these dum-dums can never figure out to stop printing themselves into hyperinflation. They just can't help themselves. I suppose it comes with the territory where you've got a magic money printing machine. You just want to keep running it 24/7. So we're going to lose that. We're going to lose the 1,000 military bases. Good. We need to. We're going to lose our standing in the world. We're going to lose the respect that we had. I think we might have lost the respect that we had a long time ago. We had an opportunity after 9/11, though 9/11 wasn't what we thought it was, of course, but the rest of the world had a little bit of sympathy for us, at least for a while, until we decided to indiscriminately start remaking the Middle East into our image by bombing countries that had nothing to do with anything. But it's a damn shame. I think it's a damn shame because we had everything here and we squandered it because we let lunatics take control of this place. But it's not over. We've got to prioritize ourselves. I hope that everybody reaches out to their friends and family members, the people that will listen to them. There's the people in your family that won't listen to you. There's not enough time to reach them. Prioritize who you can talk to. Reach the people you can get. Everybody else, good luck to you. I hope you make it because what's coming is a tsunami. You just got to get your ass to higher ground. Thanks, everybody. We're going to do some Q&A here too.
Do you believe that Australia during the COVID regime was a test case for what they can get away with in an unarmed society? And do you think that the rest of the world is likely to be subjected to what they did in Australia?
I mean, did you see the COVID camps that they had? Where it was like an Abercrombie and Fitch ad, where they're like these young 20-something girls out in their camp, out on the front porch, just having coffee and living their best life. You are in prison. What are you doing? This is crazy. You're out here trying to glamorize it. You remember the kids that were in the trunk of the car that were trying to escape and the police hunted them down? Look, Australia was disarmed after the Port Arthur false flag, and it's a test case, absolutely, for what happens. I know there's some people that are big gun enthusiasts, there's some people that say I don't love guns. Regardless, an armed population gives the government something to think about. They don't like that. They don't like us. You can see this incremental removal of our rights with regards to the guns. First it's, barrels or magazine capacities or bump stocks. It's just increment to take away this, take away that, take away bump stocks, take away shotguns, take away pistols, take away knives. You see what's happening in the UK. They took away guns and then now there's stabbing incidents. People, they'll hit you over the head with a frozen salami if they want to hit you over the head. I mean, if they want to attack you, they'll attack you with something, right? So it's not the guns that are the problem, it's the people that are the problem. And frankly, for all the people that are worried about school shootings with guns and things like that, listen, I don't like them either. But let's talk about the common denominator with all these shooters on selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, right? SSRI. Let's talk about the role of big pharma in the gun situation. Because if I didn't know better, I would think that they were weaponizing crazy people. And then getting them riled up with feds online, then sending them into schools with guns that have been purchased for them. But that would make me a crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, and certainly not one of those. But yes, I think that Australia is a test case for COVID authoritarianism. I think Dan Andrews, that lunatic cokehead that would give those press conferences. Did you ever see the press conference where he's got his back to the camera and he's doing a bump of cocaine and then turns around and he's writing, listen to me, I'm gonna lock you down, and he just goes and he's like, whoa, this guy is crazy. They finally got rid of him, but I'm sure he'll have a job at Pfizer before the end of the year.
So you gave us a pretty brilliant big picture synopsis. Can you give us kind of a step-by-step of the blow-by-blow things that could happen sequentially that we would be preparing for?
Well, the one that I think has a really great chance of happening is a banking run, a banking collapse. Now, of course, it won't be sold to you as the banks made a mistake. It will be Iran hacked into the banking mainframes and took it all down, right? They'll fail to mention the bail-in legislation that was signed into law a couple years ago. You've heard of bailouts, right? That's when the bank says, we're insolvent, we need money, daddy government, please give us money to finance our operations. And then Hank Paulson says, give us $700 billion or there'll be blood on the street, there'll be a riot by Monday. And we gave them the money, right? That's a bailout. The new system is a bail-in. That legislation has already been passed. What that says is that the bank has the right to take their money. Of course, you think it's your money because it's in your bank account, but they will say, oh, remember when you opened bank account, all that paperwork that you signed and probably didn't read? Go take a look at it again. It's not your money, it's our money. And by the way, Cyprus in 2014 was a test run for that. You saw what happened. It'll happen on a Friday. Bank will be closed. We've had some sort of cyber issue. Saturday, Sunday, we'll get it resolved by Monday. Monday comes, oh, it's still working out. Tuesday comes, well, everybody, Iran put a bug in the software system and it's fried everything and all the money's gone. But I'll tell you what, we have a solution. We have a central bank digital currency that we'd love to offer you. And in fact, not only that, we feel so bad about this situation that what we're willing to do, limited time offer only, baby. What's it going to take to put you into this CBDC? We're going to give you 2 CBDCs for every $1 US that you had for the next 90 days. And then maybe we'll just give you 1 for 1. And then after that, maybe we'll give you 50 cents on every dollar. You understand? So there will be ways. You'll get the carrot, then you'll get the stick. My fear is the banking component to this because, look, we know what happened with back in 2012, the Smith Modernization Act of 2012 legalized propaganda inside America to be used on Americans. There used to be an original Smith Act, which was done in 1948, and that said, we've just come out of World War II, propaganda is really dangerous. We need to make a law so that you cannot use propaganda in America against Americans. We'll still use it on everybody else. Let's not get carried away here, but we're not going to use it on Americans. And that law was doing just fine until Obama said, you know what, we need to change that. We need to change it so that you can use propaganda inside America on the Americans. So my point of this is that they changed that law about propaganda because they intended to use some propaganda. And they changed the bail-in laws because, in my assumption, they intend to use them at some point. Now, just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it isn't going to happen. And that's sort of the problem with looking into the future. It's all speculation right now, right? But if you take a look at what they've done in the past, I would suggest that they would not take the extraordinary step of legalizing a bail-in unless they intended to use a bail-in at some point. And if they do that, you can throw your arms up, and you can scream, and you can burn down the local first bank, and that'll do no good. Because they're going to offer you a solution. This is the classic problem reaction solution. Problem, the banking system has failed. There's a catastrophe. Reaction. Oh my God, save us, daddy government. Solution. Here comes CBDCs. I'll tell you this. I got a lot of problems. I've got a lot of things that get on my radar that freak me out, and a lot of issues with what the government is doing. But if I were to say that there is one component, a hill to die on, it is do not allow central bank digital currencies to take hold. That is programmable money. We've got dumb dollars, dumb Federal Reserve notes in our pocket, right? But at least they're not tracked. Imagine living in a world in which, we go through this Christmas, maybe the spending numbers aren't so great because, inflation's high and nobody feels comfortable about their jobs, and so they don't spend much. And then in March, we get the results, the numbers come out and they say, well, fourth quarter Christmas numbers are out and they're down 17% year over year from last year. So we've decided that 30% of your CBDCs that you have in your bank account are set to expire in the next 90 days. Get to spending. Now that sounds crazy, but it's doable. It's 100% doable. I'll tell you, even beyond that, you could live in a scenario where those central bank digital currencies are geo-fenced so that they only work within a certain, 15 minutes away from you. 15-minute radius. So they talk about a 15-minute city and you'll own nothing and all of this. Yeah, you'll own nothing because you can never save anything. Because if they can set your money to expire whenever they want to, good luck. You'll be in a rental program where you rent a bike. Now the social credit score will be a nice component of this if you're a good person who does the right thing and says the right things and doesn't call people bad names on Twitter, then maybe you can rent that bike at a discount. Maybe we'll take care of you. So it's a carrot and it's a stick. It depends on how you want to play it. But I think that our relationship with banks needs to change, and it needs to change now. You need to be proactive as opposed to reactive on this one. You need to be paranoid as opposed to comfortable, because this is how authoritarians think. You can't reason with them. You can't say this is wrong. They don't have a lot of these people in positions of power don't have even if they wanted to change things, they can't. Some of them, they're team globalism and they're fine with it. They don't need to be talked into it. Some of them are doing this against their will because there's information that is very unfortunate that is out there that compels them to act a certain way, Jeffrey Epstein. So that's a world in which those people really live in. It's all theoretical to us because we don't really deal with that. But if you're somebody that's been in Congress for 40 years, they've got the goods on you. Whether you're into money or power or fame or little boys, whatever you want, they've got it. And they've got the goods on these people. So they can be made to act a certain way. So look, I'll tell you what I worry about even more so than maybe some of the dictates coming from the government. I worry about the behavior of Americans in large groups. The herd mentality. We've seen what's been going on recently. Everybody all of a sudden has to stand with Ukraine, or they have to stand with Israel, or they have to do this, or my legs are so tired from standing with Ukraine. I'm sick of it all. But this is the manipulation of the masses, and so you listen. This group here, you've always been in the minority. It's nothing new for you. You've always been the black sheep. If you're a libertarian, you're not part of the red team or the blue team. You've noticed that was nonsense a long time ago. It's why you're not participating with that. But the vast majority of people, there's a steep learning curve. A lot of them aren't going to figure it out, So I worry about dumb people in large herds, and there's a lot of them out there.
Charlie.
Yes, sir.
To you, dude. The pipes are playing. Have you heard of the field of study called ponerology, not pornography? Wait a minute. Dead? Oh, okay. Round two.
There we go.
Hoorah! Have you heard of the field of study called ponerology?
No, I have not. Please tell me what that is.
An Eastern European professor decided to study evil in power and deduce that, maybe 3 to 5% of the population are literally psychopathic.
Yeah.
And they're such exquisite manipulators and wealth gatherers and power concentrators that they recruit minions, and minions become sociopaths, and the culture that they inhabit becomes literally a psychopathic, sociopathic culture. And I believe that's where we are.
It's tough to wrap your head around it, right? Because we're good people. We want what's best for ourselves and for our friends and our family. We don't want to hurt people. We're not interested in doing that. So we export that onto our leaders and say, no, they would never do that because I would never do that. Oh, well, please don't make that mistake. Because the people that are running this show, they don't think like us. And psychopaths are freed up. They don't have that line that where we won't cross that, like, a lack of empathy frees them up to commit unspeakable acts that we could never even wrap our heads around. So we're really at a disadvantage when trying to deal with them because we have lines in the sand and they don't. And when you're also talking about power and influence and money and things like that, and of course the media, let's not forget the media, we on a one-to-one basis are outmatched. However, we've got the numbers, and we've got the truth, and we've got goodness, and we've got all of that on our side. So I feel good about where we are. I feel like over the last couple of years, for as frustrating as the COVID situation was, it's another one of those transformative moments. JFK, 9/11, COVID. What's the common denominator? The media is always driving the getaway car. If it wasn't for them, nobody would believe any of the official stories, right? So you've got to have the media playing that role. But what's the relationship between the general public and the media right now? It's not great. I think people are starting to learn that, we in the alternative media, we don't get everything right. How could we? We try our best. We do, I think, a very good job. But at least I think our audience knows that we want what's best and that we're actually trying to get the stories right, as opposed to the mainstream corporate horror media. Who trusts them anymore? Why? Why would you? If you were in a relationship with your significant other and they treated you the way the mainstream media treated you, you would get a restraining order against them, right? They're out of their minds. It's constant lying and manipulation. It's sociopathic tactics. It's gaslighting to an extent that it's hard to comprehend. But I think that people are starting to kind of wake up to it. The spell is breaking. And so that's great, but here's the downside to that. Psychopathic people don't tend to just give up and go home. And when we back them into a corner, it's going to get ugly before it all ends, right? So we're in a situation where as they start to lose their grip on the narrative, reality, their ability to manipulate people, I believe that they will go to extraordinary lengths to retain what little power and control they have over us. And that, of course, makes me very cautious because there's nothing that they won't do to retain this. So keep your eyes open, of course, and talk to the people you can reach. But I've had to prioritize my time and emotional energy over the last couple of years. There's only so much arguing I can do with somebody, right? At some point you just go, good luck, man. I hope you make it. But if you're willing to have the conversation, I'll have it with you. I'll tell you what I've also learned. I've done this. There's a good way to talk to your friends and family, and then there's the bad way. And I have done it every way you can do it. am the idiot that brought up 9/11 at Thanksgiving dinner one year and watched the table turn on me. That was not good. But what I've learned over the years is that nobody wants to be sat, have a seat. Let me tell you what's going on with COVID, and I'm going to tell you what's going on with the mainstream media, and I'm blah, blah, blah. And you just verbally unload on somebody. They don't want that. So if there's somebody in your life that you want to have this conversation with, I have found that the best way to do it is, instead of it being a monologue, make it a dialogue. Start asking them questions. Hey man, what do you think about this? I just saw this story on the news. It sounds crazy. What do you think? I remember asking a friend of mine who has an MBA from a top 5 university about what he thought about the flu going from 38 million cases in 2019 to 1,822 cases in 2020, and then back to 38 million cases the following year. I asked him what he attributed that to, and he said, masks. I said, are you sure? I said, what's funny about the numbers, and you have an MBA, meaning you're a numbers guy, right? You've got 38 million here, and then it disappears, but you have 38 million cases of COVID, and then back to 38 million cases of the flu. Do you not see any sort of connection? His response was, man, I don't know. And so it's like, some people are never gonna know. Some people don't wanna know. That's a lot to unpack, right? Like we've done it over the course of our lives. We've come to these realizations and everything. But I also have to remember that some people are not ready to remake their entire lives, to rethink, to change their views on everything. They're baked in, to have to think that your government is trying to kill you when you've always believed that your government loves you. That might be too much for some people to take on. It's like, I got work and I got kids and I don't need that shit in my life. And tell it to somebody else. Like, what do you want me to do about it? Fine, the government hates me. What do you want me to do about it? Well, I want you to know it. I want you to understand it. Is that can we start there? Yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, Charlie, thank you. One last thing. We are many and they are few. Oops.
We are many and they are few. And it sounds to me, what's your take, that the WHO is losing the argument for this international treaty crap? A number of countries are standing up and saying no. Do you think that's going to happen?
If there's logic and sanity and rationality in the world, that will happen. But again, we're talking about the World Health Organization under the umbrella of the United Nations, started by David Rockefeller, who had more money than God and spent it in every way, shape, and form in order to remake this world into his image. So I don't believe that the WHO in and of itself will have some come to Jesus moment where they say, maybe we're the baddies. I don't think that's going to happen. I think what will happen is that they may implement some of these policies and watch as the general public turns their nose at it. What happened in Nigeria over the last year was really promising with regard to the central bank digital currencies, because they implemented them. They took away the existing money supply, they cut it off, which caused chaos, and then they said, we've got a central bank digital currency, here it is, it's the only option, take it or leave it. And only 1/2% took them up on that. The other 33% are trading in Bitcoin because they decided, we've had it with this hyperinflation nonsense going on here. We don't like this, we're not interested in this, we're not doing CBDCs. So again, a lot of their authority rests on us complying. And I think we all have to remember, do not comply with unjust laws. Just don't do it. They need us to comply and be difficult. Be a pain in the ass. Be somebody that just refuses to do it. For those of us that walked around during the COVID fiasco, you go into a grocery store, everybody would have a mask on. I'd walk in there without a mask, waiting, bracing myself for the anger. And you know what I saw? I saw from every now and then somebody else wearing a mask pull theirs down a little bit. So sometimes people just need permission to say fuck the system. And you give it to them by being bold and by walking out there and saying, I'm not complying with this, and there's nothing you can do. I walked into a grocery store in Las Vegas. There was a lady standing at the sliding door, the automatic door that opens up. There's a lady standing there. What a shitty job. And she's like, I have a mask, and I straight up Bill lumbered her. Just walked right around, it just kept walking. Sir, you don't have your mask. I keep walking. I think for minimum wage, you're not gonna chase me down in this grocery store and get into an argument with me. Do you want it that bad? I'm gonna make you earn it. It's the same reason why I make them do the pat down at the TSA every time. I want you to earn it. I want to show, baby. If you think you're gonna take away my rights, sir, would you like to do this in a private room? Absolutely not. I want to do it right here. I want to make you get on your knees and grab my balls in front of all these people, just to make you go home and rethink your job so that one day you'll quit. An interesting thing, I put in my first book a chapter called Black and Blue and Dumb All Over, speaking of the TSA. They give them a test when you start at TSA. God, I hope nobody from TSA is working. It is in here today, but they give them a test, an aptitude test, and you take the test, and then based on your score, you either get the job or you don't. And what they don't tell the people is that it's kind of like golf. Low score wins. They don't want people that score really high on that test, because they know that people will take that job in about a month in, 2 months in, they'll go, this is awful, I'm out of here. And that costs a lot of money to train people. So they want the George Carlin philosophy. They want the people dumb enough to, just smart enough to work the machines and just dumb enough to not have any other options to go anywhere else. That's TSA. So when you know that, you sort of, you know what you're working with there. So I want to make those people second guess their career choice. I want them to think that they have made a serious vocational error in deciding to go to work for the government in the TSA by emptying water bottles or throwing away your cigarette lighters or whatever busy work they're doing. So do not comply. Remember that you have power, and remember to be as difficult as you can, because what we saw is that when you do that long enough, they eventually just have to scrap their programs, and they have to decide, well, we're not going to chase people around with masks in this grocery store. This is crazy. It just doesn't make any sense. So be disruptive to the extent that you can. Don't get arrested, but be a pain in the ass, because if everybody's a pain in the ass, then they have to rethink this whole thing. So. Oh, go ahead.
Are you aware that there's a national currency outside of the World Bank's control, known as the Continental Dollar Laborback, associated with the Continental Public Bank, and they have their digital version for wallets, known as the plus symbol, GPU plus symbol?
I am not. Great, thank you very much. Now I know what I'm doing tonight. 6 hours on my computer, my wife told me, what are you doing? I'm looking up the Continental Dollar, honey. No, I haven't heard about it, but afterwards I want to talk to you. I want to hear more about it.
Aside from your own books, what was one of your top book recommendations you have?
Oh, I'll tell you. I can tell you that John Perkins' book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, absolutely positively woke me up. I read it in March of 2007. I was on a vacation. I was just getting ready to go on a vacation. My buddy was going to watch my animals for me. He came over and he said, I've got a book. I think you might like it. He gave it to me. I read it. I remember it was a scuba diving trip. I don't really always remember the ins and outs of the books that I read. For some reason, I don't know, the retention wasn't there. I specifically remember being underwater, scuba diving, and thinking, getting close to the end of my dive and thinking, oh man, this dive's coming to an end, but at least I get to go up and read another chapter of that book. That book changed my life. Because here's the thing, the book hit me at the perfect time. This is March 2007. I'm living in Las Vegas. I'm selling new homes. I'm working in real estate. I'm selling new homes. Everything is booming, right? We will give a loan to a guy with a, you know, literally just, if you're alive, you'll get a loan. I remember a guy coming in, filling out the paperwork for the lender and putting, you know, everything in there, and that he was a landscaper. You know, he mowed yards and, you know, trimmed trees and everything. $10 an hour. And we qualified him for a $405,000 house on an adjustable rate interest, you know, one of those time bombs. And I'm reading Perkins' book, and he's talking about how he worked for a company called Maine, which is like the equivalent of Halliburton, a multinational engineering firm, and they're approaching countries, and like third world countries. They're going to Ecuador as an example. They go to Ecuador and they say, you've got great topography here for a hydroelectric power plant. Well, you should build a dam here, and then it'll generate electricity, and then you'll have electricity. All the kids in the area will learn to read at night because they'll have lights on, and, you know, sell the benefits, all that stuff. And so, and we've got the loan set up from the IMF and World Bank. I mean, like, just tell me you want it and we're good. That was what John Perkins was doing. He was an economic hitman. And so Ecuador would say, okay, fine, yeah, sure, sounds good, give us the money. And they'd say, well, we don't really give you the money. I mean, we give the money, you know, the money comes from the IMF and World Bank to my company. My American company builds the hydroelectric power plant. I mean, you're not going to get the money. I mean, well, maybe we'll put some in a Cayman Islands bank account for the president, right? And he's got it. But everyone else, no, that's not how it works. And so they build the hydroelectric power plant. It starts to generate electricity. It starts to generate revenue. They start to pay back that loan that they've got, but it's just not enough. Every month, it's just not enough. And they fall behind in their payments, almost like it was designed that way, because it was. And then the next thing you know, like any good loan shark, John Perkins is showing up to these guys going, hey, you know, listen, you owe these guys a lot of money. And, you know, I don't know, maybe we can work something out. Maybe you privatize your lumber industry and sell it to our buddies at Goldman Sachs, or maybe you vote our way in a UN resolution, or you allow us to put a US military base there, some deal that the country does not want. They work it out. So they take fake money that's just printed up on a central bank computer. They loan it into existence. They saddle some country with unsustainable debt. And when they fall behind on their payments, they take back tangible assets. And I thought, holy shit, we're doing that in Las Vegas, but just on a smaller scale. The light bulb went off. That $10 an hour guy that bought the $405,000 house, he's gonna lose that house. Sure, he can make payments for a little bit, just like Ecuador, but eventually he's gonna fall behind. And you know what? You know who's gonna own that house? The bank. And I just couldn't see it. While I was in it, I couldn't understand the game. And so, you know, that I think is that's a book that changed my life, really. I mean, honestly. And then as sort of a side note, a follow-up to that is that a year ago, I reached out to John Perkins and I said, would you by any chance want to come on my podcast and talk about, he says, well, as a matter of fact, I've got a third edition of Confessions of an Economic Hitman that's just about to come out. It's dealing with China and the Belt and Road Initiative in South America. I'd love to come on your podcast. And so I had a chance to tell him, like, your book changed my life. Like, I would not be writing books or doing anything that I'm doing if it wasn't for your book. And so that's one for me. There's others, of course, you know, I mean, as far as the books that got my attention, but Confessions of an Economic Hitman and probably Behold a Pale Horse by Bill Cooper too. Holy moly. I mean, good luck. You read that book, and if you don't understand that we've got problems, then you're probably not paying attention.
I started my campaign on Why Me for Vengeance, and after they broke out with World War III, I figured that wasn't the best idea. I switched to James for Peace. So I wanted to ask you a question about that. Is there hope for a less turbulent transition. Maybe if we disarm our government, maybe we can activate some of these red flag laws. They're kind of insane, so maybe we can disarm our government.
Oh, please. I mean, listen, I would love a soft landing, if anything. Let's be optimistic, right? Let's hope for that, but plan for the worst, of course. You know what I mean? Let's not. We all suffer from normalcy bias. You know, yesterday was normal, I mean, relatively. Today's normal. Tomorrow, you wake up, probably going to be normal too. You know, so you sort of expect it, and maybe some of us don't plan as much as we should. I, for one, would like to confess that I owe the preppers an apology. You were right. You preppers were right. I thought you were a little weird, but you were right. You know, and maybe you are a little weird, but the idea of getting yourself sorted out well in advance and recognizing what we're up against, that is something that requires forward thinking. And think about the people you interact with on a daily basis. They don't even have the ability to be present currently. You think they're doing much forward thinking? I mean, there's an inability to sort of see the future for them, sort of on this treadmill, just day after day after day. We benefit from having the ability to see into the future a little bit and to understand, hey, I've seen this play before. And the last time they did this, last time they ran this play, it ended up kind of like this, in a world war, in which boundaries got redrawn and mistakes got papered over and currencies were reimagined and power shifted and all of these things. So if you recognize if you understand your history, and I don't mean the history that's in your history books, but actual history, you'll see some patterns. And unfortunately, where we are right now is we're in a place where an economic collapse is very feasible. I'm not trying to speak that into existence. It doesn't really matter what I think about it. It's coming whether I want it to or not. But when you've got these economic collapses that are sort of on the way, a lot of times they start wars as a distraction for that, and it's also a great way to, in a horrific way, spur economic growth in some industries by getting into a wartime footing, which I think we've been on for, 300 years. but that, I fear that that's where we're going. So yes, we've got the ability to mitigate some of these things, and we absolutely positively should be trying to do that, but at the same time, have a backup plan, have an escape route, take advantage of the time that you have now where it's relatively normal to sort of get yourself thinking about, all right, what am I going to do? What is my relationship with money? What is my relationship with my family? Who can I really count on? Who am I going to talk to these things about? And who am I just going to say good luck to? So, I hate the idea of having to discard or give up on people, but we don't have a whole lot of time to sit down and explain to everybody where we are, especially people that just want to fight and argue with you about it, that are normies, that get their information from poisonous sources, that get their information from people that are pathological liars, that don't have a problem telling them, that don't have a problem going on the nightly news, looking right in the camera and flat out lying to them. So prioritize your sanity, be proactive, don't be reactive in this situation. Build a good network of friends. It looks like you've already started that process here. Network, get to know each other. You're gonna need each other. We're gonna, if for no other reason than just to talk somebody off when they've had a bad day. Talk them off the proverbial ledge, man. Hey, it's not gonna be like this forever. And then one side part to this, and it feels a little disgusting to mention it because there's going to be so much pain. But if you know where this is going from an economic and societal standpoint, you've got to first move out of the way of this tsunami. But you've got a prime opportunity to set yourself up in the aftermath of this as somebody that is well ahead of everybody else. You can create. There's going to be a lot of opportunities. There's going to be a lot of pain too. So I don't wish that on anybody, but But like I said, there's not much we can do to stop some of the heavy economic side of things. But when the dust settles, you may find that if you're sitting on a bunch of Bitcoin or a bunch of gold and silver, you've heard the story of the guy from World War II that had the gold coin, or maybe it was World War I, and afterwards bought himself a hotel with it, when everything revalued. So get creative and stick together.
We're gonna do 3 more questions and that's it.
Okay.
They're already chosen.
Okay.
Looking at you, Arden.
There we go.
So I'm out.
You're on.
We'll be here all night otherwise.
Next question. We'll talk.
Regarding economic collapse, you mentioned gold, silver, Bitcoin. Anything, I know it's a big topic, anything else for preparation, like just simple things people can do?
Well, here's one that's not maybe as simple, but it's something to add to that list. Productive farmland. Anything that grows food, obviously I think this should go without saying. Productive farmland, something that has water, or something that has water rights as well, because that is extremely valuable. You want to have tangible items like gold and silver, but again, I think that I had never thought of farming at all, and in the last 3.5 years since I've been doing my podcast, I can't even tell you how many farmers I've talked to, or cattle people that are like, have really changed the way I view our relationship with food. People that run farmers markets, people that run homesteads and the like. That's a big operation, obviously. Not everybody I know can do that. But I know people that build survival kits. They go to the dollar store, get a bunch of stuff from the dollar store and build kits and sell those and make a little side hustle. So I think you just have to kind of get creative and come at this from a different angle. Things that don't have a ton of value right now may be extremely valuable in the future. Skills. If you're an electrician, if you're somebody that knows how to work on cars and stuff like that's extremely valuable. There's not going to be much use for a derivatives trader in the new paradigm. You know what I mean? But somebody that can fix your car. That's somebody that you're going to need to have a relationship with. Get to know farmers, buy your food direct from them. There's a lot of networks of people that will say, oh, listen, I'll sell you half a cow to go in your freezer, things like that. So again, we in America are so used to the just-in-time trucking system where you just go to the store and it's there. The food's there. Well, we saw what happened during March of 2020, and it was toilet paper. Right? You don't want to have to fight some asshole in aisle 5 for the last can of baked beans, right? So be proactive on that. Get yourself sorted out to the extent that you can. Again, bullets. The people they're like, hey, you're gonna need bullets, right? And of course they're trying to restrict them. So it's just a matter of coming at this from a little different angle, a little paranoid, but that's okay. Good. It's good to be. You don't have to freak your family out. Tell them you're putting together a emergency kit. Wink, wink. You know what it is. It's for something. It's for something a little bit more than just an emergency. But take advantage of that stuff, and of course, just know your neighbors. Know who you can trust, and know who you can talk to.
Hi. Back to the TSA. For anyone who's not traveled lately, going through DIA especially, don't let TSA take your picture at the check-in.
Yeah.
They're trying to do that to build a facial recognition database. And I've gone through there October, November, both, and they're trying to take your picture when you go through. Politely decline. You don't have to do it. They're not doing it in Atlanta. They're not doing it in Miami, but they are doing it in DIA. It's just random, but just be aware, because they're going to make you think that it's stand here. We're going to take your picture.
Yeah, we're just trying out a new program. Oh, that's interesting. Good for you. Try it out on somebody else. I'm not interested. I'm not participating. Am I being detained? then I'm out of here.
Last question.
Okay.
So earlier this year, we saw some of the big players in AI, like IBM and OpenAI, get in front of the Senate and kind of plead to them for more regulations on AI. And one of the thoughts that's kind of been circulating in the tech community is that they're not doing that because they're these big benevolent organizations. They're doing it because the small business and the little guy, they don't have the resources to put the controls in place to abide by those regulations, and nor do they have the resources to potentially, go to court if they ever break any or violate any of the regulations. And I was just curious to get your thoughts on that and the implications of AI and the wild card that it might be.
Yeah, please don't throw me in the briar patch and regulate my AI exactly the way we want our AI industry regulated, so that only the big boys can play. Yeah, we've seen that tactic before. FTX tried to do that with crypto too. Trying to bribe everybody. If you need any help with regulations, just let us help you write it, so that we write the regulations in a way that benefits us. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you my fear about AI in regard to. This is probably all you need to know about it. Eric Schmidt, the former head of Google Alphabet, is now the head of AI for the Pentagon. So, sleep tight.
Weird.
Yeah, weird how that happens, huh? That the Google guy is in charge of that. So, I have fears about that. I think in the Terminator movie, in real life, when they come back, the guy that they need to kill would be Sam Altman, right? Isn't he the guy? Isn't he the guy that that the Terminator needs to hunt down, who's in charge of the robots and everything? It's a weird place where we're going, and if we allow ourselves to get into, the U.S. military is bloodthirsty as it is. Could you imagine a scenario in which they didn't have that human component behind the trigger, making a decision, looking through the scope at another guy saying, I can't pull the trigger on this guy. This guy's got a family, probably likes soccer just like me, probably has a kid just about the same age as my kid. Am I going to pull the trigger? That's a human thought. That's a human element. When you take that out, and you take out that decision making and give it up to Eric Schmidt and his buddies running, oh, no thank you. I get bad feelings about it. I'm not saying we all need to be Amish, right, and get rid of technology altogether, but we certainly need to be careful of whose hands it's in, because unfortunately right now it's just the worst group of people around, and I do definitely fear that. And I want to thank you for inviting me and for having me come out, and thanks you to everybody for listening. I have a couple books that I brought. I'll be in the back. If you're interested, my podcast is called Macroaggressions. It goes out twice a week in audio format everywhere. I do an interview once every Sunday, and then I do a monologue every Wednesday. I have some really interesting guests that I bring on. We try to get into topics that are relevant and wild and stuff that you aren't going to hear on the nightly news. So I appreciate you all, and if you want to connect with me, you can follow me on Twitter at Macroaggressions, and my website is theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com for the next week or so, and then it's changing. But you can find me there. That's still the best place to find me.
Give it up for Charlie. Thank you, guys. Thanks everybody for coming out. We'll be back next year. We hope to see you all then. We love you all. Merry Christmas. Have a great night. Drive safe and keep fighting the state.
Will you send me your address on Telegram?
Everyone buy Charlie's book. Charlie lives with one book. You're all banned.
Since I'm offering.